Lesson 4, social media. Social media usage continues to grow. Penetration is set to hit 3 billion people worldwide by 2021. Despite some mounting challenges and really a very interesting time in our history for social media. 5 important things we'll talk about. We'll talk about how there are really 6 different social media platforms that lead this industry. We'll talk about how social media platforms that a consumer will use varies pretty significantly by age and need. They all have sort of a niche that they fill in the life of a consumer. We'll talk about what those are. We'll discuss that while each major social media platform offers unique positioning, Facebook, Instagram are still the dominant players in this space. Brands most frequently use social media through sponsored posts that seek to influence consumer decisions authentically and organically, and we'll look at some of those formats. And then finally, we'll hear from an advertising agency's chief strategy officer as he talks about the need for a variety of data when conducting analysis and the role and the particularly unique role that social media can play in that data collection and data interpretation. While this market of social media has been growing significantly and, as I said, is set to hit 3 billion people in the next year, there really are 6 important platforms for us to be aware of. Those 6 are Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and Facebook. While there are a variety of other social media networks out there, these are the 6 that are really today in the most dominant position, with Facebook and Instagram being the largest providers today. Each of them fill a unique need in the consumer's life, and because of that, there isn't as much fighting for consumer attention, while that is always important. But what these sites have kind of settled into are roles that they can play where they fill a unique role in nearly every consumer's life. I mean, if you think about a consumer who is engaged in social media, it's rare that the consumer is just using one single platform. They have a variety of platforms that they use, again, each for their own purpose. Those choices, the set of social media sites that they do choose to engage in, and who engages in social media really is dependent on age. When we look at millennials, over 90% of millennials do engage in social media. As you move into Generation X, it's looking more like a little north of 3/4 of those consumers are using social media. And then finally into the baby boomers, actually less than half, but still a significant percentage, 48.2% of them are engaging in social media. So the older a consumer is, the less likely they are to engage in social media. But as I've said, that engagement is broad, and not rarely is it affixed to a single social media platform. These platforms have evolved from just a place where consumers could kind of connect and exchange ideas to really having great influence for brands over purchasing decisions. We see that 81% of consumers who are buying products rely on their friends' social media posts as influences in that buying decision. And then referrals that consumers are making to different products are important as well in a social media context. 71% of consumers say that social media referrals make them more likely to purchase a product. And then once we see positive social media attention given to a brand, we see a tremendous jump in conversions and actual purchases. A recent study said that jump can be as high as 133%. So these brands are playing a significant role in the purchase journey of a consumer. The way that brands advertise on social media has some sameness to it, frankly. If you look at ads on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, they are very visual. This is the power of social media. They are shareable. Again, the power of social media. They do look somewhat alike, and that is almost by design. It's because these platforms are constantly monitoring each other, and when they see something, a new format kind of working in one area, they can quickly be duplicated across the other platforms. Again, more contributing to that strategy of having a consumer who uses several social media sites and wanting to create a consistent experience for a brand across those sites. A couple exceptions, maybe Snapchat. Snapchat has a pretty unique installed base, and so they've been allowed a little more freedom because of the younger consumer who might be up for a little more flexibility in the way that brands are interacting with them. You will see new things kind of rising out of Snapchat. Also unique is LinkedIn. I mean, it's when you talk about a social media site that is dedicated to working professionals, it's very different from the broader swath of consumers that you would find on any other platform. So for them, LinkedIn, the way that they have brands connect to consumers is somewhat unique and a bit different from the others. But in another kind of stroke of sameness across all of the social media platforms, is the way that they might evaluate success of the campaigns that are run on their platforms. Advertisers look at these social media platforms as opportunities to connect with consumers, and so certainly engagement is the most important measure of return on investment for advertisers. Other things like getting people in front of the ads, so traffic to their sites, or engagement all the way through the funnel to actually purchase can be important as well. But some of those things get a little difficult to attribute and a little bit difficult to measure for some brands. So that engagement at the point of connection with the social media post is really the leading indicator of success. We're going to hear now from John Kenny, who's the Chief Strategy Officer at FCB in Chicago. John is talking about the need for a variety of data when conducting analysis, with a particular insight into how consumers use various digital platforms and the role that social media plays today. And I think his perspective is really interesting.
Data plays a huge part, and actually it plays an interesting role, because where you see people making mistakes with data is they put too much faith in individual data sets. And the way I like to think about it is, even think about the best behavioral data sets we have out there, the big social media platforms. Google tells the world what I'm worried about. Facebook tells the world what I'm proud of. Pinterest tells the world what I'm dreaming of. Amazon tells the world what I'm settling for. Each of those data sets are incredibly insightful, but it is one perspective into your consumer. And so my favorite example is, if you think about how wives describe their husbands on social media, it's amazing, incredible, the best. Whereas the number one phrase associated with husbands on Google is jerk. And again, it's not that individual data sets are incorrect, it's just that every data set comes with its own point of view. And I think to truly embrace data, you have to start with a skepticism about any individual data set. And I think that's a challenge, especially for a lot of folks who are starting out of the industry, because I think the theatrics of data is it's the voice of God. Ultimately, data is one person's point of view dressed up as no one's point of view. And that's what gives it such authority in the room. It looks scientific, it looks technical, it looks objective. But if you're being truly honest, I think the role of the analyst is understanding that that piece of data is part of a bigger story. And telling that story in a way that's really convincing, I think is how you go from being an entry-level analyst to a more kind of sophisticated builder of strategies for clients.